Now, I'm not sure what started my descent into madness and my obsession with gear, how I hunt for gear every day even though I have way too much. My original message was a Sony X3000 was overkill for your needs, for YouTube scrub talks. I don't know what happened to me, but we're a mad scientist now, a camera scientist, and I search and I hunt. And today we talk about the gear that you need for a YouTube scrub job and the stuff I need, which is more than what you need.
All I want is the perfect camera. All I want is the perfect camera.
So it's going to be a very ranty, gear-focused episode, like all my videos are. I just want to talk about what I own right now, why, and what I'm thinking of selling and getting and replacing. It's a merry-go-round. There's no such thing as a merry-go-round. There's a merry-go-round and a Ferris wheel. You can't combine them. People would die. So right now, we're on the Sony a7S III, Voigtlander 21mm Tony 1.8, and I have too many focal lengths in this range. It is nice to have a wide angle. If you're a YouTube scrub, this is probably the easiest thing to get. Something between a 16 and 24. You find your sweet spot, you pick your lens. But I've been obsessed for the past, I would say, 4 to 9 months of just hunting for the best glass with 3D pop, micro contrast, all that stuff, the vintage character look. And that's what I've been focused on, just for in here, for some reason, doing videos like this, or out in nature, which has been my major focus. And I have way too many. I had to test them all. I had to know, is 85 my focal length? What's the best 85? 50? Is that good enough? 135? So in this focal range right now, 21mm 1.4, I find this is the best of the wides that I own. So I'm trying to sell my 18mm Batis and the 25mm. The 25mm is the only one that kind of hurts, because it's a better lens in a lot of ways. It autofocuses. I don't have to do this stuff and enlarge my screen to 300%. And I'm in focus right here. If I want to show you something, it's like, I got a manual focus, do all this stuff. It's a pain in the bitch. But this lens is a full stop brighter. Tony 2, let's switch to it. Okay, now we're on the Zeiss Batis 25mm Tony 2. I can just relax now. This is such a better lens. Like, was it really worth the image quality that I think I can't even see? The Voigtlander slightly better rendering, I think. But the obsession. Zeiss lenses, they look nice, but for some reason they don't autofocus perfectly. It's not like, oh, I now have the convenience of autofocus, but sometimes it goes haywire, loses your ass, and then you look like a monkey. So it's like so stupid. So the Voigtlander, at least you're in control. And one thing I've been debating, of course, is the Nikon Z6 III. Is that better than my a7S III for YouTube stuff? Better color science? I don't know that it is, really. You don't do much. I would rather you're just a wildlife camera. But like, I still have a bunch of Nikon glass. The 40mm Tony 2, that's a gem. We'll switch to it soon. You be patient. It's a long episode. My goal is to just simplify the setup because I have so many duplicate focal lengths, which we're gonna show you today. Like the Zeiss 55, amazing lens, autofocuses, but I also have the Voigtlander 58. It's a 1.4, manual focus only. Do I need both? Obviously not, because you have to pick. You gotta pick, is it Sony or Nikon? Which one are you gonna go with? Because if it was Nikon, then I kinda need that Voigtlander, but if I don't, and that's just a wildlife setup, then it's only Sony, and then we simplify, and everything's better when things are simple. Okay, now's where things get tricky a little bit. Voigtlander 35mm 1.2. You're manually focusing, you're further away. You're scared now. Are you in focus? You're panicking. Sony's pretty good at the peaking, enlarged, while focusing. Nikon can't even do that. Thanks for nothing. Can't even punch in. So many video features are lacking, and they're in the ZF photocentric one. That's good times. I'm not sure when this madness started. I think it was when I came back from Thailand. I was no longer traveling. When I was traveling, of course, I don't want a bunch of camera gear. I have to leave the country sometimes and come back, and it's like little action cam and a tiny studio cam, and we're done. It was micro four thirds. We were somewhat happy. But now I have a home, and I became restless, and I have space for gear. And I just started acquiring things, and you guys donated gifts. I was like, oh, thank you. And I've been trying so many things, and I've sold a lot of them and bought new stuff. There's a certain excitement, a dopamine rush, if you will, for acquiring new gear and testing it out and comparing it to... But there's only so long you can continue to do that before going bankrupt. That's what I've noticed. To compound the issues and confuse yourself further, you throw another camera into the mix, and then all of a sudden a new color science is yours, and then you do a comparison like this on YouTube and you get different opinions. The Nikon looks so much better. Wow, I can't believe Sony color science is so good. It looks better than Nikon. And then you're like, you have math equations thrown at you and you can't understand. Did you expose it properly? That looks so terrible on my screen. I do not get it. We're at 215 zebras, whatever the hell that means, because Nikon uses a different numbering system than the rest of us. So it's like, there that is. And we're in Nikon RAW and log. Look at the lamp. Let us switch to rich tone portrait with dynamic range boost on high and see who exposes better. Huh? Who has more dynamic range, log or boosted? There is zero chance in hell that I know what I'm doing with this exposure in the Nikon. I forget which zebras I'm supposed to use. So we were actually in 160 on log, and now I'm in 215, and I don't remember if I had those switched. For log and rich tone portrait, probably, because they both look so bad and my light's maxed out. But the lamp looks like it's not clipping anymore. Rich tone portrait wins our hearts. But this is the kind of meaningless madness that runs through my mind at all times of the day. I'm just making these minor tweaks. Ooh, which has more dynamic range? Can we get that light to not clip? When I should be focusing on like writing jokes or something, and let's plan a skit. Let's do a movie scene here. Let's go out to this location. But the gear-obsessed hobo gets nothing done. He's just looking for the gear, and that's all he thinks about all day long. He's wasting so much time. Focused on what? Who cares about any of this? Just pick one lens and go make a fun show. That's not what we're doing today, that's for sure. Okay, now we're back on the Sony a7S III with the Zeiss 55mm 1.8, and while this particular show seems like a descent into madness even further, we're learning stuff here. There's certain things you want to focus on when buying stuff like this, like the wide angle. Do you want that vintage pop look? Or is autofocus more important to you? Or stabilization? Because if you're in Sony, Sony lenses for some reason speak to the active stay better. So like that Voigtlander glass, it's not the best. You actually have to use Catalyst Browse if you want it usable. There's a lot, but it looks much better than the 20mm 1.8. Come on now. And then there's the focal length discussion. Do you want the portrait look of the 55 autofocusing? That could be fun, but what if you had a Voigtlander glass with a new Nikon to Sony adapter that I just bought for $11 on AliExpress? That could work. Now what you've probably noticed is that I'm no longer super sharp. It's hard to do that. Wide open, this lens is not the sharpest. It's pretty sharp, but it does have that kind of dreamy look. And then will you even nail the focus? Getting hard to see. Once you're 50mm and above, it's like, okay, now my life is harder. Was it worth it? First the Voigtlander in the beginning that I could clearly see. I was very close to the camera. Or the Batis 25mm autofocusing on me. How is this a better show? Right now, it's not better. People actually get irritated by the background blur. It's like, what's he doing? Why? I thought you were against this. Most of your videos are saying you don't need to blur the background, and now you're blurring it beyond anybody's capabilities. Nobody can see anything. Not even one of your eyes are in focus. Okay, so you stop it down, you hobo scrub bitch. Relax. Come on, we're 2.8 now. I'm in. How come my light isn't bright enough to even handle a 2.8 full frame? It's at max 100. Zayun, you effed me. I sold my small rig light, and now this is the only thing I have, and I'm too far away from it because I wanted a portrait lens. But my lighting's bad, and when you're underexposed, you have more acne. The only solution, of course, would be to double down and move even further away and switch to an 85mm Zeiss 1.4, and you could be in focus, and now you can see he's lost his mind. Manual focus 85mm, do you have any idea? But it can be done on Sony. I think I'm in focus right now. Is it the sharpest wide open? No. Was this its intended use? Zero chance. I just became obsessed with this 3D pop look and what lens is the best for that, and this is probably one of them, but I noticed that the Canon EF 85mm 1.2 was even better. It had more pop and I preferred the look, even though the tone has a little fugly looking. It's kind of chromatic aberration-like. Don't even mind it. So it very much depends on what you plan on doing. If you're just doing living room talking head stuff, go with something a little wider, and autofocus is your friend. There's still nice glass for each system. They have autofocusing glass that is decent pop, like vintage. Nikon 40mm Tony 2, come on. That was some pop. You have to admit it, that's like your easiest setup. Sony has a bunch of Zeiss lenses that autofocus. They're plenty poppy enough. You got your Fuji system, all their old vintage ones, 35mm 1.4. Come on now, that's pop-like. Are you seeing it? Was there a difference? Did you pick up on it? It's a 1.2 versus a 1.4. 0.2s of a Tony's. Come on now, I see it, I feel it. It's the Canon glass. This is what makes me want a Canon camera instead of anything else, because everything I've tried so far, every lens I've bought thinking, I'm going to get some 3D pop, a nice look in nature, I already had the 85mm 1.2, which beats them all in my testing. It's like my favorite look of any lens. I have to adapt it now to the Sony. It's wide open because I can't stop it down. Every episode, they're like, look, you blurred the background. I would have tried to stop it down if I could. So like right now, Megadap is sending me their EF to Nikon adapter, which autofocuses, so we'll test that out. Could you even imagine this lens in nature, 6K 60 RAW? Forget about it. I want to forget. Why am I even trying to talk myself out of this? Because I clearly get a lot of joy from just testing basic things in a living room. Like, it's the one joy I have. Our world is insane right now. And if I can just buy some camera gear, test it out, have a lot of fun, and then sell it off for a similar price, it feels sustainable. I'm not losing. I've been given so much and sold so much of it that like I have this pool of money that I feel compelled to invest back in the channel, and I give. Come on, who are you? I get comments sometimes like, you should give that away. Are you in my life? Are you me? Do you know what I do to give? I just selfishly find that it's more fun if I buy new things again and test things for you. And then you learn and you see, okay, yeah, I was thinking of getting that lens, and actually, no, it's just too overkill. I don't even need it. Thank you for showing me that. So like we all learn together. If I just bought somebody else, imagine right now, I buy someone a Canon EF 85mm 1.2 and some random guy you've never heard of gets it. How does that benefit you? It doesn't, does it? You never get to see the results. Oh, that's a sad life for you. This actually isn't hard at all to see the peaking. I feel like this lens is sharper than the Zeiss. I'm totally in focus right now. My eye is, at least. Not my nose, or my ear, or my terrible haircut that was cut with a vacuum. None of that's in focus, but we're learning. Final form achieved. Am I intrusive into your living room now? Yeah. Probably 135mm Tony 2, not really meant for in here, is it? But I can still see the peaking. I should back up a notch, probably, but I'm not going to. Last thing I'm going to switch to is the Blackmagic, which I've been thinking, like, I don't really desire to shoot with it. I'm only keeping it because it's funny that it's 2 megapixels and 1080p only, and it's so old, but it does RAW, and it's 12-bit, and it's like, how is it still so much better than anything we've ever seen? It's the best image still. It's going to win today's contest. For less money was 500 dingers Canadian. And then you get a little Leica lens on that thing. It's like, what are you even searching for? Something inside that I'm missing. And I'm trying to put a camera lens in my heart. And it doesn't fit. It's the wrong mount. The real final form achieved. 2 megapixels, 1080p only, 500 dingers if it was a foot. You could find this thing probably cheaper than that. Get any old lens, a C-mount lens. Frickin' unlimited recording, shutter angle. So final bits of advice, if you want to start a YouTube channel, keep things simple. I know it's fun to do what I'm doing now, but I've been very lucky to be given so much, and that's why I'm buying things. If I hadn't been given all these cameras from Marcus Pix and the Steinbecks and Flat Earth Santa and the Winkleplex, and everybody's giving me this stuff, and it's like, cool. And most of it, some of it, I keep, and some I sell, and that's why I'm buying more things. I'm cheap. I wouldn't be doing this on my own. We'd still be on the J85 most likely. So it's like, relax. But like, it benefits society, in my opinion, this stuff. I have a camera channel dedicated to gear that I can review, and then that makes money, and then people learn, and it's a fine addiction. It's not cocaine, it's not sports. It's better in some ways. But start very simple, start cheap, and just see if you like doing this, because you can't just buy a full frame camera and then, I want to start a YouTube channel. What full frame camera should I get? Like, no. You're using your phone, and do you like this? Can you handle the criticism? Do you have anything to actually say? Have I said anything of value this video? Not likely, maybe 3 things, max. Post them on down there. What did I, come on. Let's not forget, I started on a little Canon point and shoot, and then I got one that zoomed longer for some reason, and I did that for a while, and then eventually the 1-inch sensor came into our lives with the G7X. And then I got a vlogging camera, the X3000, and then I finally went mirrorless with the Micro Four Thirds, very basic setup, but it had a flippy screen. It was all about usability. And now, like, we're just playing around and having fun, and full frame's the goal. And a helpful tip, if you're ever thinking, you're debating, should you sell something, ask yourself if you would buy that now if you didn't have it. Because it often, no is the answer. Because I've tested all this stuff, and it's like, would you buy that now? Well, no, it wasn't as good as what I already had. So that's how I'm weeding out the villains from the heroes. And this is like, okay, we keep certain things that are just a special look. This Leica lens, like, I can't get rid of that. That was my first mistake ever, not buying this lens, like 8 years ago. So final thoughts, I'm debating just slimming down. As you've seen, we have duplicate focal lengths for no reason, because some are Nikon, some are Sony, but if you adapt, it doesn't really matter. So I'm thinking of weeding out. Maybe the Voigtlander 58 goes. I have the Zeiss 55. I think that'll be better. The Zeiss 85, do I need that? Not really. So like, we're weeding out the options and then buying new things. I almost bought a Sony ZV-E1 today. It was pretty cheap, 2,200 plus tax, Canadian. I was like, that's just cheap enough, but I only want to see if the color is different than my A7S III, and it probably is slightly, and it could even be worse. So it's like, it's not really worth it. Or the Fuji XS20, things debate in my mind. You see the list down there, Canon C70, but God, that would be so dumb. And the 6D2 would be even dumber. But like, there's things I debate every day, and none of them matter. But here we are, not learning at all. Just egotistical monkey in a mirror show. No one learned anything. So let me know who won today's battle after you donate your Bitcoins, so I can buy more camera gear that I don't need and show it to you who doesn't care. It's a worthwhile life goal. You don't know that it's not. I'm gonna leave now. Subscribe more when I say it.